Now, I believe that every parent of a special needs child dreams of the day when their child isn't special anymore, at least not because of their diagnosis. But if we want the world to see our children as equals, if we want the world to accept our children, something important needs to happen first. We, the parents, have to accept our child and their diagnosis fully and completely and with our whole heart. And to do so, we have to learn how to come out of our own suffering. And that's easier said than done. Because when something unexpected happens to us, something we don't want in our life, we go into denial. And when we're in denial, we fight against three important things. Now, this is something that I've found to be true for my own life. I invite you to take a closer listen and see if you can relate to what I'm saying. When we're in denial, we fight against three important things: intuition, reality, and vulnerability. And of course, we start with intuition because, frankly, we don't want to hear what it has to say, especially if what it's saying is that something is wrong with our child. Unfortunately, for denial, intuition is a voice that will not be easily silenced. And before it gets too loud, and we're very afraid of it, we start our second fight, and this time we're fighting against reality. And the fight against reality begins the moment we numb ourselves from it. When you shop too much, work too much, drink too much, spend hours on Netflix, social media, anytime you're distracting yourself from your life, you're fighting against your reality. And we don't even notice that while we're busy avoiding our life, our child, our family, our friends, our work, it doesn't get put on hold. These people don't want to play along with our fantasy because they need us. But if we're not ready to face them because our pain is just too great, then the third fight begins. And now we're going to fight against vulnerability. And the fight against vulnerability begins the moment that we decide that to be vulnerable means to be weak. And we will not be weak in front of the world. And we will definitely not let our children be exposed to it. So we build armor around ourselves to protect us from prying eyes and judgment and criticism and what will people say, from society, from labels. But what are we really keeping out? What's the real price of this prison that we have built to protect ourselves? We're keeping out what we need most. We're keeping out love, support, connection, empathy. And how could we possibly expect the world to see our children as equals when behind these walls, they can't even see our children? Behind these walls, we can't even see our children because we're too busy fighting our inner voice, avoiding our life, and being disconnected from love. So now we have a choice to make. Do we continue to fight against everything? Do we continue to suffer? And do we make our child's diagnosis the end of the world? Or do we learn to drop the gloves and fight the right fight? Fight towards intuition. Fight towards reality. Fight towards vulnerability. If you're sick of suffering, if you want to break free of your pain, the first thing that needs to happen is that those walls you build need to shatter. They need to drop. And you need to open your heart to the world. And yes, you're going to be exposed. And people might point it, they might criticize, but I promise you, what you're most likely going to find with an open heart is love, connection, support from everybody around you. And when you allow yourself to feel that for the first time, you might just look around and see that your reality isn't as bad as you thought it was. You might just look around and realize that there are other people in your shoes going through the exact same thing you are, and that they can guide you and help you, and one day you might be able to help somebody back. You might even go one step forward towards your reality and ask yourself, what is reality? Is reality the thoughts I have in my head at night? What will happen with my child when I'm no longer here? Will my child be independent? Will my child speak? Will my child get married? Is this reality? Or is this a movie that we play in our heads about the future? Because the moment you question what reality really is, you realize that reality is now. Not the past, not the future. Now, this moment, this very second. And the burden that you feel lifts like magic, like air. And we are light, and we are ready to love and receive love, and we're ready to support and be supported. And we're ready to look our child in the eye and accept them for who they are. And then the world will be ready to do the same, because it came from you. When you look your child in the eye and you can accept them and love them for who they are, then you get the best gift of all. You get your intuition back, which is what all of you and what all of us needed all along. Because our children, they're not born with a manual, but we are. What do you think intuition is? It's our guide. The moment we embrace it, we fight towards it, we will realize something very important. We will never live alone one day of our life, ever again. We'll never have to make a decision alone, ever again, if we learn to listen to that inner voice, fight towards intuition. So because Erica and I know what suffering feels like, what denial feels like, what pain feels like, and what fighting against everything feels like, but more importantly, because Erica and I know how to be free from it, how to teach you how to be free from it, how to drop those walls and release the pain, this is why we built Una Luna a la vez, which means one moon at a time.